Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Living from Sunday to Sunday podcast. I am your host, Pastor B. It is my mission to help you navigate and strengthen your walk with God 15 minutes at a time. I believe that real change happens between Sundays. So, thank you again for listening to today's episode. Take a moment and like this video, share it with your family and friends, and please subscribe to all platforms and audio versions of this particular podcast. One of the challenges that we face as believers, as Christians, is the desire to assimilate, to be like everyone else. It is a fight and it's a challenge because we naturally um, part of the recipe and the formula of being a true Christian is we will never ever fit in and will never ever be able to kind of hide who we are, but yet we try to do that so hard sometimes, right? I remember um just being different in high school, but I didn't want to be different. Like I wanted to fit in. Again, I've been in church since I was 5, and I just know that God called me to do something different just from like a teenager, like 11 or 12. I just knew that something was different, but I didn't really want to accept it. Like I fought it hard, right? Um, I vividly remember um, being in 8th grade and we were playing like kickball or football or something. And I was playing with the fellas, and you know, I still to this day don't curse, right? I don't really um I don't have like a foul mouth or anything, but I remember all of my friends cussing and saying whatever, and I felt this pressure to fit in. And so somebody made me mad or I reacted to a play and I used the same cuss words that I was hearing from my friends. And everybody was like, "Oh, Brian said this and Brian said that." And for a brief moment, it felt good to be like everybody else. But that went away so quickly. And I felt so convicted about sacrificing my standards in God just to be liked by other people. And so throughout my life, um, I struggled even after that episode. I struggled with accepting that God made me to be different, right? Um, and what does that look like? That means that the level of sacrifice for me was different from other people, right? God called me to spend more time with Him. That church was okay. That I needed to be around other believers. That I needed to be around the church environment because it was a structure for the rest of my life. And I got mad a lot of times whenever we had 3 services on Sunday, even though I had church friends and all of this other stuff. I felt I was missing out on a lot. And so what happens is whenever you try to fit in, um, you compromise who you are and you go into certain situations that you were never built for, never created for, right? Um, like I I'm grateful that the Lord kept me from, alcohol, kept me from drugs. Like I remember, I remember in college trying some alcohol, and it was so bad. Like it was terrible, and it wasn't even like real liquor. Like it was like some Mad Dog 2020 or something, right? Um, but the taste was so bad. Um, and I just remember like, man, I really can't do this. No matter how much I tried to fit in and tried to be like everybody else and to compromise who God wanted me to be, God would not leave me alone. Like he would always say, "Nah, man, you're created for more than that, right?" And I had to accept that I was a square peg in a world full of round holes. That no matter how hard I tried, I would never ever fit in. I would always stand out. And so we have to embrace that. We have to embrace the fact that God made us uniquely separate from the world. That what I do in my attempts to assimilate and to be like everybody else, I will always be uncomfortable. You will always be uncomfortable. If God has called you to be different and called you to be a trendsetter and called you to be the one person to shift the culture for your community, for your church, for your family, you can't do what everybody else does. Like you have to stop trying to be who God didn't make you to be, right? And when you accept that God has created you to be different and you choose to embrace that, what you are also choosing is you are choosing that you are okay with not being liked. Um, because Jesus he tries to prep his disciples in John 15 saying, listen, the world is going to hate you. And the reason why the world is going to hate you is because they hate me. You're associated with me. I've marked you and I've separated you and called you for my purpose. And so um, don't try to limit your call and limit my stamp of approval on you by trying to be like everybody else. The world is going to hate you. They're going to misunderstand you, but it's okay. Like when you go and after you've received my empowerment and after I've anointed you, I'm going to give you an assignment. If you go to a certain place, if you go to a certain family member's house, if you go to your job and you present what I tell you, you witness to your family, your friends. You are the model of excellence and the model of consistency and the model of faithfulness. Don't be surprised when people are jealous, when people are trying to do all that they can to tear you down, to slander your name. It's a part of being associated with God. It's a part of being a believer. It's a part of being a Christian. And like in Western culture here in America, that part of Christianity we don't teach. That part of Christianity is something that we run away from, right? We try to create our own idea of power and responsibility and leadership in Christianity when really God called us to be servants and he called us to be models of his life and models of what he experienced on earth. And at the end of the day, the people that he came to serve are the ones who killed him, right? He came for the Jews, and the Jews were the ones that handed him over to the Roman government. So stop fighting it. Stop fighting it. because what the Lord is calling you to, what He's called you to be, what He's called you um, to, like the platform of influence that He has placed in your hands, it is so vital that you stand 10 toes down in it. And no matter what comes, no matter what goes, no matter if you lose family and friends, if you're misunderstood, if friends turn into enemies overnight, if people who you've never heard of all of a sudden want to rise up and plan attacks against you, greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world, right? It is so, so vital because I believe that it's so easy to compromise, that this world is used to people who claim to be Christians, but have major flaws. And the biggest flaw, I think, that is impacting this world and is making people question whether or not Christianity is legit is hypocrisy, where, well, hypocrisy and lack of integrity, right? Where they present themselves to be this one wonderful person, but yet in real life they're the complete opposite. They're despicable. They're liars, right? And the reason I think we get like that is that we've not settled in our heart that who God made me to be is good enough. That who God made me to be is greater than the approval and the applause of man. Because, like I mentioned in my story earlier, the gratification of being like everybody else, that thing faded so quickly. Popularity in the world is only as good as what you do for me lately. And the moment that you do something that they don't like with the same level and enthusiasm of support, will you will have that same level of of demonization, and they're trying to bring your name down quickly. And here's the thing: the same thing happened to Jesus. So when Jesus was riding through the streets um, of Jerusalem, headed to the temple, these people were they took these palm branches and they put them in front of Jesus's feet, and he marched through on a donkey like a king's procession. And they said, Hosanna, Hosanna, save us. You are this great and mighty and glorious king, right? This same group of people, whenever it came time to choose between Jesus and Barabbas, the same group who celebrated him as king sold him out because Jesus wasn't the person that they wanted him to be. They wanted him to be a liberator from the thumb of the Roman government. And Jesus was like, no, I came here to save your soul. And it was like, nah, we don't want that. So the same people who cheer you on and cause you to compromise would then talk about you and call you a hypocrite. So why is it worth it? Why is it worth trying to force yourself as a square peg into this society full of round holes? Stand out, be bold with it, right? Embrace it, stick out, walk around knowing that you are being the person that God has called and created you to be. All right. I am the truth. You are the truth. God, God has given you so many great and wonderful ideas and talents and abilities. Use it for His glory, and don't worry about what the other people say. All right. So, thank you for listening to today's episode. Um, Please be sure to share this with your family and friends. Subscribe both to the audio version of the podcast wherever they may be found, or if you're watching, subscribe to the YouTube channel and like it and share it again with family and friends. All right. So Thank you again for listening to today's episode. And until next week, y'all know what it is. I'll see you when I see you.